They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
I've seen
What?
I've seen a woman eating a cat, but
Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer the question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer the
Wade,
question. Would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month.
not true.
And it was a fraud. Just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
Well, I think this is so rich, coming from someone who has been prosecuted
I knew that was coming.
for national security crimes. Kamala Harris. Let's have a good debate.
Nice to see you. Have fun.
Thank you.
Welcome to you both. When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to start up small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month.
I thought he was trying to get rid of tax. No, he was trying to get rid of the taxes taken off your check.
Your income tax.
Yeah.
Right.
That's what it was.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because it was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. Look at Aurora in Colorado.
Yeah,
they are taking over the towns. They're taking over.
Isn't that where the Venezuelans went into the house, into the apartments?
I never heard
and they
of
robbed that person? Well, no, it was on the news. I don't know if it was on the news. I saw it on TikTok, but they went in there and they went in somebody's house. They had like a vest. And I think they said they were from Amazon or something. And then they just went in their house and robbed them. I believe that was in Aurora, Colorado. I think that's what he's talking about. I don't disagree with that at all.
I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health ever.
Unemployment. Wasn't it COVID?
It was COVID. To be fair on Biden and Trump's side, Trump had the country when COVID just started. COVID just started. It started Biden. So, I don't know if the inflation was caused by that, but I do agree that the economy has went to crap. It's went to crap in these past 4 years. But again, COVID does affect a lot of what was going on, I feel like, at least.
Mm-hmm.
And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight.
That's both sides.
is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again.
He didn't.
I believe
So didn't he come outright and say that he is not endorsing
they keep
that?
telling him, they told him
he's not endorsing that. I don't know why they keep saying that he's going to be doing this Project 2025 stuff.
And another argument, they're probably going to talk about it later, the abortion. They said he's going to ban abortions. And he already said his stance on abortion is when it comes, it's the same as your stance. Yeah. Pretty much like when it comes to the life of the mother, when it's incest, when it's rape, he's not against abortions, and he's not going to put a full-on ban, a federal ban, which I don't even think, I think after the Roe v. Wade situation, I don't even think it's a federal level anymore. I could be wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's all up to the state anyway after the Roe v. Wade.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic, and the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. So we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things. And it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity.
I hope there's not a lot of insulting on either side, because I can see Trump doing it. I can see Kamala doing it.
What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession.
If she's talking about the tariffs and stuff, I personally don't think it's a terrible idea. Where it will be bad at is whenever we're trying to buy all this made from any other country. It would push us more to buy USA products. And I don't disagree with that idea of buying more USA products, but it would suck for things like foreign cars or even phones. Like a lot of this stuff's made in like Korea and Vietnam. I thought this was made in Vietnam.
iPhones?
Yeah. I thought it was manufactured in Vietnam.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I could be wrong. Or maybe it's the Galaxies.
Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan. And it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run.
I mean, to be fair, I don't know what her plan is.
I don't think anybody knows what her plan is.
Maybe I just have to do more research.
Double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country.
With the whole tariff situation, it could potentially help, especially help eliminate our debt because we get so much stuff from China. And I think that's who we had the most debt with. Yeah. At least that's what
I would think so.
But they could also raise their tariffs.
Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration.
Wait, so he already put some in place?
If he did, that's pretty cool.
We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. The
election's in November. We didn't know more.
Inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
The Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago.
This is
how Trump is.
Is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals.
So,
Many of these people coming in are
about 21 million.
Yeah, because
like
saying,
a year.
I believe so. They're saying like thousands are coming in a day.
21 million illegal immigrants. That's insane. That's insane.
I have nothing against people migrating. I mean, I'm Hispanic. I come from Mexican roots. I have nothing against that. But letting people come in by the boatload undocumented, it's literally a danger to us. Because we don't know what kind of people are coming in. We already have enough criminals. We already have enough crimes here as it is. We already have enough to deal with as it is. And then letting people we don't know their background or anything like that just freely come in like that. I mean, I don't know.
Let us know what you guys think in the comments. How y'all feel about this?
Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because
I hope that's not true. That's insane. 9-month abortions? That's insane.
That is ridiculous.
I hope that's a reach.
Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. This is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio,
I don't really see a problem with it being with the states, but at the same time, I could see how it could be hard for women who live in those states.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Understand what that means. A survivor of a crime, a violation to their body, does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the park.
Are you serious?
States like that.
States are really doing that?
Banned like that. That's, to me, that's wrong. When it comes to the life of the,
that's messed up.
When it comes to the life of the mother, that
really. So if they're having a miscarriage, they're just supposed to have their baby just sit there and rot in the body?
Parking lot? She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term? They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national monitor.
Come on.
Why is she lying again? That's what I'm saying. They both lie. But that's dead already. Like that's
been dead.
Just saying the same thing. I do understand with the Roe v. Wade thing though, but I think the Roe v. Wade, if it actually doesn't have any limitations at all, I feel like it needs to be fixed. I feel like something else, another bill needs to be done. Where, hey, if it's like this, or because if people were trying to, which I think that one of the moderators said that no, there's no states that are allowing abortions after your baby's delivered.
Okay.
But like, I think even the 6, 8, 9 month, like, I think that's extreme. I think that's unless it needs to be done for a medical reason.
That's what I was about to say. So like, in these states, if they're trying to have an abortion through a miscarriage, does that
well, okay, so with the miscarriage stuff, a lot of times the doctors can tell that you're going to miscarry. Maybe not a lot of times, but there are times where doctors can tell that you're going to miscarry. And so what they'll do, they'll go ahead and take the baby and take the baby out or let you have the baby. But I'm assuming in these states, they're making you have the miscarriage, which causes more risk to you and your body. And they're just making you just have it and then have the baby like pretty much stillborn. That's what I'm assuming. I really don't know, but that's really sad.
That would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade and understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country?
That's one thing I don't understand. If states are really denying IVF, I don't understand why.
When they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer the question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question. Would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month.
not true.
Why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
That bill actually sounds amazing. I mean, really.
I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom.
I know she ain't talking about people leaving their rallies, but I don't know if it's true. But from what I saw about her rallies,
the Meg Thee Stallion stuff, didn't people just start leaving as soon as she started talking?
That's what was said. Of course, I wasn't there, but that's what was said. That's what was on video.
That goes for both people.
Yeah, so
I mean, and a lot, I guess, of why people are just, if they're staying, celebrities just going there.
And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there.
There must have been more to that bill for him to kill that bill.
Yeah.
I would hope.
And then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
I seen
a
woman eating a cat, but
people out here.
No, she was like
kidnapping dogs and cats and eating them.
No, the woman I saw, she was just like in front of somebody's house eating a cat. But she said the cat was, I don't know. I think she said the cat was a witch or something.
She got the same face I got right now. Like,
I think she was on drugs. I don't think it was necessarily like an illegal immigrant.
Very simple phrase: "Make America great again." She's destroying this.
The one thing I don't, and I understand why people don't like about that phrase, "Make America great again." When was it great? Like, I don't know if he means like traditional. That's one thing I can think of. So traditional values, maybe bring them back. But Make America Great Again, it was never really great to begin with, in my opinion. Make America great, cool.
If she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city.
I don't think he responded about that bill, which is questionable.
No, he did not. I don't think he responded on that bill.
There have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from television.
But the people on television saying their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former secretary of defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
When I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people who's were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family.
The way they pulled out of Afghanistan was horrible. And then not only that, they left a whole bunch of military equipment there. I think that was horrible.
They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they? Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier, so let's get back to...
They allowed criminals, many, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And then now in the United States, crime in countries all over the world is way down. You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country.
I don't know if it's true, but I've heard
this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes.
I hope this isn't true, but I've heard that they're trying to push to where illegal immigrants can vote in America. And I don't think that's something that, I don't know if it's true. Y'all let me know if it's true, because I haven't done a lot of research on it, if I'll be honest, but I've heard that. And I just wanted to share my opinion on that. I think that's completely not right. I mean, go to any other country. You think you're going to be allowed to vote? I mean, there are some countries where you can't even become a citizen. Or it's extremely hard to become a citizen. That's another thing with this whole migrant situation. I feel like it should be easier to become a citizen. And maybe that's why some people come illegally. And then I've seen one of the artists that I like, her mom, it took 20 years for her to become a citizen. Of course, I don't know why or everything that happened behind it, but that's crazy, 20 years.
All over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
Violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But
Excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be a fraud.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted.
I knew that was coming.
For national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference, has been found liable for sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law, the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries.
But even if everything that she's saying is genuinely true, she does have a bad rep. And also being the prosecutor in California, or being, what was it, a district DA, there's a lot of stuff that went down under her watch that people don't trust her now because of what happened.
Same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country.
And even if they're thrown out, people are still going to bring it up that it happened and use it as a reason not to vote.
President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice President
to stop
Harris,
him.
Thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about
that I was seeing many clips. And I know there was one person who was saying, I think it was on Twitter or X, whatever. Mm-hmm. There was one person that was like, okay, if you're going to say that Trump initiated January 6th, let's say that Biden initiated the attempted assassination on Trump. They're not saying those direct words, but at the same time, it's kind of insinuating, hey, put a target on him. Like, I don't know. And then on both sides, and I guess it's just how the game is. The political game. I guess that's just how they go. They exaggerate a lot, and they cut little clips to make it look like, oh, you're saying this, and you mean this, and you're insinuating this. Yeah. And by looking at the clip initially, it's like, wow, what are they doing? But then you go back and you see the entire video and you see the context of it. It's like, they exaggerated that. They're doing so much.
I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of at least every point that you've made.
And it doesn't. I feel like people change their viewpoints, or maybe not like your values, but they may change their viewpoints I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. And they said the same thing about Trump and his abortion stance. Like, and it's also the politicians. They're gonna go off of what they see that the people want. So maybe that's why she's changed. I didn't know that she's changed her viewpoints on this.
But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term.
I think she's trying to give first-time home owners $25,000. I think
she's trying to give what?
First-time homeowners $25,000 towards their home or something like that.
Really?
I've seen that on Threads or Twitter or X, whatever the heck it's called.
That's pretty cool. But
I don't know. I mean, I also seen comments that are like, yeah, well then home's just gonna go up another 25,000.
That's true.
Yep. I don't know. It sounds good. Same thing with the student loan forgiveness. That sounds good. Same thing with Bernie Sanders because I wasn't old enough to vote when Trump was first elected, and Trump and Hillary, Bernie Sanders. I like Bernie Sanders' idea of free school at the time. I was senior in high school, but then looking back at it, I'm like, that just would have made our taxes higher. It just would have made a whole bunch of other things higher. I don't think that is such a great idea. I mean, it's gonna cause if we're giving money somewhere, it's going to be taken from somewhere else. Nothing's free.
That is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling.
Well, first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please.
Oh, my God.
She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day one. I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof.
I'm just now really getting into this politics stuff. I'm late to the game, I know, but this it's caught my attention now, and I mean, just here to learn. So yeah, y'all get in the comments, I guess.
I feel like a lot of people with this debate are very more in tune with previous ones. Maybe just me feeling that way, but I feel like a lot of people are because of how bad the economy is right now. And so a lot of people who previously they're like, oh, I don't got nothing to do with politics, that has nothing to do with me. They're realizing that it does have something to do with them.
Yeah.
Because it has to do with your everyday living, whether you realize it or not. It has to do with our foreign affairs. It has to do with if you can afford a freaking house, how much you could be getting paid. It has to do with everything. I mean, and, you know, as Christians, it's God first, it's Jesus first, always. And of course, we're going to put our faith in their hands. But I don't think that necessarily means, because I know some Christians who just like, oh, you know, we're Christian, we shouldn't have nothing to do with politics. At the same time, I don't fully agree. But of course, at the end of the day, it's not make or break if this person or that person wins. It's not make or break, because at the end of the day, we're going to believe that God has plans for us.
Yeah.
Should we put our entire faith into politics? No, our entire faith should be into God. But at the same time, it doesn't make us, I don't feel like it makes you wrong to be a Christian and be involved in politics and what's going around you in the world.
October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis, many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters, because it is also true far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers.
People on both sides.
What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately. And the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about...
I can understand the Russia-Ukraine. Maybe he could have had something to do to prevent that. I don't think the Palestine and Israel stuff could have been prevented. That was brewing for a long time. It was bound to happen, unfortunately. And then whenever Hamas took over, that was over. That was over for. I don't know. Let me know more information. Again, I haven't fully did my research on that war, but... And one thing I will say about Trump is he shook hands with Putin. He shook hands with the Kim Jong-un person.
Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen. Look at what's going on in the Middle East. This would have never happened. I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is it is very well known that Donald Trump is weak and wrong on national security and foreign policy. It is well known that he admires dictators, wants to be a dictator on day one, according to himself. It is well known that he said of Putin that
I seen a clip where he said, you know how I was talking about like the Christians and how some Christians don't like to get into politics. He was like Christians. He was like, let me tell y'all, if y'all vote for me, y'all won't even have to vote again. And people took it and ran with it and said, oh, he's gonna become a dictator. That's not what he meant. If you watch the full thing,
they were saying that they were thinking like he was just going to stay in as president forever.
Yeah, what he meant by that, apparently what he meant by that was that he's going to fix America in these next 4 years so that way you don't have to worry about it again. Not that you don't have to vote again necessarily, like, but that you don't have to worry about it no more. That's what he meant. And there was some news outlets saying, oh, he's going to become, and then there was other news outlets saying, like, no, this is what he meant. And that's another thing, like, a lot of these news outlets are biased as well. Like, I know for sure CNN's very biased, towards
Fox
Democrats.
News is biased
Fox News is biased.
Republicans.
Yeah, so you got to kind of be careful where you're getting your sources from. And if you're going to, I feel like, because I watch both. I watch both, so that's kind of where I try to like even it out, I guess you could say. I get my sources from different news outlets, and I'm like, which seems more. And then on top of that, I do my own research when I do it. Again, I've been kind of lacking. Maybe I used to be way more into everything that was going on, but I don't know. Lately, I just haven't been. And right now is a time to be. And if you're watching this and you're not too sure on who you're voting for, I say vote. Vote, especially if you're a minority, and especially if you're a woman as well and a minority. Like we went through a lot to even have the right to vote. Y'all better go out there and vote. It doesn't even matter who you're voting for. As long as you're educated on who you're voting for and you feel comfortable voting for them, go out there and vote.
that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these
What I remember with that man is him calling him Little Rocket Man. I don't remember no love letters. I remember him taunting him.
He called him Little Rocket Man?
Because he kept threatening to, like, I guess, nuke us.
Oh, really?
Rockets. I think. I know he was testing, in the waters, and they were saying that it was getting close to California. And then he started taunting him. But I'm not gonna lie, at the time, it was kind of scary, because I'm like, why are you taunting him? What if he actually was? Yeah. But I guess he was like, try me, we're gonna do your worst. I think that's more so where he was coming from. But
clear, they can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why We understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
They're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation.
I have a few friends and some family members who are veterans, or even some that are like in the military.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't hear nothing negative about Trump from them. I mean, that's just my personal experience. You know, I'm just speaking for myself. But yeah, but one thing with that Project 2025 that does concern me, I'm not saying that he endorses it because he said he doesn't. His name is nowhere on that Project 2025. But I understand why some people are scared. They think, you know, since he's a Republican and we have Republican House and Congress and stuff, that's going to definitely get passed. Anyways, my point that I'm getting to is I know that there's a section in there that says that pretty much it's going to be more strict on who gets benefits and what benefits they get when it comes to I think it's like disabled or people who are injured and stuff like that. Which can be scary because if you're actually injured and you actually become disabled because of that, that can be scary. But at the same time, I hear stories about people lying about their pains that they might have went into the military with and leaving out with checks. You know what I mean? So maybe that's why they're doing that, but I still don't like it because it could potentially hurt the people who are not doing that, who actually get hurt while being in the military, and now they're having a hard time trying to get their benefits.
Yeah.
Y'all let me know if you actually read that section. Again, this is all stuff just from the top of my head, so if I didn't remember everything 100% correctly, of course, correct me. But yeah, let me go ahead and put this back on.
Last month, for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it.
Oh, did he really?
Because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent.
I didn't hear
That's
anywhere on the
terrifying if that's true. But yeah, no, I didn't hear it.
I haven't seen it.
I don't know. Oops.
And I just
it looks like it's true according to a few news sources. It looks like Putin actually said that.
Did say that.
That's terrifying.
Crazy.
I'm not gonna lie, that's terrifying.
One question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe? Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you a very simple question tonight. Do you want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more, because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect. And what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? Yeah. But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening. But he does have that, something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her.
Russia expanding because they're already really big.
Yeah. That country is huge.
But it's always been rumored, I'm not gonna lie, for like forever, that Russia and China will eventually like team up and go against us. And the way we're looking right now, we ain't ready for it. And that's a scary thought. But I mean, everybody's said that for a long time. I mean, you've seen that movie Red Dawn?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been, but I guess it's more scary seeing Russia go after like Ukraine and stuff like that.
And Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, to
be fair, some people saying that it wasn't brand new military equipment, but the kind of the point is that you left our equipment behind.
$85 million worth of equipment.
I also heard that their equipment wasn't worth as much as what they're saying, and that it wasn't as new as what they're saying. But I don't know when it comes to military equipment.
Blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now.
She's looking at him like in pure disgust.
I mean, to be fair, she's VP.
Mm-hmm.
She probably can't do a lot. I mean, but she says that she backed Biden's decision to do all that. That's where.
Yeah, she messed up.
In politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, "I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black." I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words. So
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
We don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was
I want to say, I feel like I don't got no fingers to point, really. I feel like it's both sides that are dividing us. But I never seen it so, like, such a race war as much as it is now.
He owned land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young Black and Latino boys who were innocent.
The
Central Park.
I think I watched like the Netflix documentary on it.
Calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first Black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your
thing, just because she mentioned like she travels America. It is so different in different states. In Texas, I think we're one of the most, like, how the race is divided.
Oh.
Like, I feel like Texas is probably one of the most diverse, in my opinion. I mean, well, probably New York. I feel like Texas, we coexist better. Like,
we got everybody here, especially if you're in Houston.
Definitely. But I see in other states where even me and him, like, we'll get ugly looks from people because we're not with our people. What do you mean, our people? Like, we're all human. Why does it matter if he's Black and I'm Hispanic or whatever? But no, it's really like that in some places, and they will give us the most evil look. They're so, I guess, brainwashed in their head where race is everything to them.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park 5, they said they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world.
I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight.
to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she has a plan to not allow fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay,
that's what her plan is until just recently.
I think
I just want to touch on that real quick. The Second Amendment situation. I don't think constitutionally, I don't think they can ban guns. If they're already getting guns and drugs from this Mexican border, the only thing that banning guns is gonna do is, again, I don't think this is something that they can constitutionally do anyway. But only thing that banning guns is gonna do is make it harder for us law-abiding civilians, as law-abiding citizens, because the criminals are gonna find guns anyways and use them against us. That's my viewpoint on it. But at the same time, it's also in the homes. It's also in this bullying stuff. So these kids, they can't take that bullying, then they go and do these actions. What we can do though about the kids doing it is parents be more involved. Like, seriously, know what's going on at your kid's school. Know if he's getting bullied at the very least. But I feel like nowadays parents, they don't look at that stuff. I know whenever I was growing up, my parents, they check my folders, they check my backpacks. I don't see parents doing that as much as they used to anymore. They just go to school, come home. That's it. Yeah, that too. It's like, and I get it too, because parents, they both, in this economy, both parents have to work in order to sustain a decent lifestyle.
You have to be very, very fortunate, man, making some really decent money to just be working by yourself and able to sustain a full house, a woman, and then children as well. You have to be making some really, really good money to be able to sustain that kind of life.
Ladies, don't come at me too heavy for this, but that's why it's important for moms to be at home with their kids. Because we're the ones who nurture. We're the ones who know body language. If I compare me and him, he's not going to know somebody's body language and if they're feeling bad or not. I'm the one who picks up on that. I think most women are able to pick up on that. And the change of tone, the change in how you're going about your day. We pick up on that a lot. So we're able to see if he's in a bad mood, if my brother's in a bad mood, or somebody. So I'm dang sure you're able to see if your child is going through something. But I get it. We have careers and stuff like that. But the children need to come first. That's another thing. It's neglect. If you're just having your weapon out and your child has access to it, that's neglect. And it feels like you probably have no training on how to handle a gun to begin with. So I feel like for a handheld, that's one thing. But for like an AR and stuff, I feel like you should have a license. You should have to have a license.
President Trump, this is now your third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better.
I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff.
Okay, but I mean,
as it relates to the affordable,
about that Project 2025 stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
so I mean, y'all both are kind of doing the
both.
exact same.
That's how the political game is. But I don't think that they should do away with private insurance. That's why I was like, oh, okay, whenever she said that she was okay with private insurance. Because if you make everybody have the same kind of insurance, that's kind of like going on a socialist path. I don't like the idea of socialism.
And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president, and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act.
It is hard. I mean, I try to get life insurance. I've lost a few people in the past few years, and you never know when it might happen. I looked into a few places that I get denied because I have cancer. So I'm pretty sure it's happening to people. I'm pretty sure it happened to people trying to get health insurance also. It doesn't sound too far-fetched.
We have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. Access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice President Harris,
in terms of where Donald Trump stands on that.
We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money, but she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get. People are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
As someone who's been on, I get it confused. Medicaid, Medicare, I get it confused. I think Medicare is for older people. But for someone who's been on that, it's not the best. Government insurance is not good. There's some okay doctors, but you know how long you have to wait to be seen by them? And that's one thing I can understand.
What would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. We have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. They're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
For closing statements, and Vice President Harris, we begin with you.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us. And we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
That was pretty, yeah. I can't say who beat who. That they both made some really, really good points. I mean, y'all just let us know in the comments how y'all feel about that debate. What y'all gonna go who y'all gonna go vote for? Yeah.
And with that being said, if y'all putting who y'all gonna vote for, please don't spread hate to each other. No matter who you vote for, we're all human beings. We're all God's children. There should not be any hate.
We're gonna be having a little video coming up in the next couple of days, and here's a little preview.
And endangering children. During Candelario sent.
How could you do that to your own child? How could you do this to your own child?
I'm not saying abortion is right, but this for sure is not. This is worse.